Good morning. Welcome back. This is section 6.4. 6.4 is a little bit bigger, so I'm actually going to break it into two different parts. So this is part 1 of 2. Before we really get started, I want to do a little bit of a review. Say if we had x squared, what really does x squared mean? X squared is x times x, right? How about x cubed? What do you think that looks like? X times x times x, right? So now, just to break it apart a little bit more, what if I had x times, let's say x squared? What would that equal? You could write it out the long way, right? X times, we know x squared is x times x. So you have x times x times x, which is really x cubed. Okay? So now let's go and take a look at these examples. For number 1, I have 3x times 4x. So there's a couple different ways to do this. I would suggest looking at the 3 times the 4 to get 12. And then we have our x times x is x squared. Okay? If you look at this next one, we have a 3 times what? Well, technically there is a little hidden 1 right here. So we'd have 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. And then again, I just have a times a, which is going to be a squared. Okay, go ahead and try the next one. Just hit pause real quick and come back when you think you've got it. Okay, so this one's pretty much the same thing, right? Just bigger exponents. So now we have a negative 7 times 4 is a negative 28. And now we have x to the 5th times x cubed. So if you were to write this out the long way, you would have 5 x's, and then you'd have another 3 x's written out, right? So how many x's would you have all together? You would have 5 plus those 3, you'd have 8. So it's going to be x to the 8th. All right, go ahead and hit pause again to try the next one, and hit play when you think you've got it. All right, so I have 2 times negative 7. What do I get? A negative 14. This one's a little bit bigger, right? Because now I have a cubed times this a. Remember, there's a little hidden 1, and we add our exponents. So it's going to be an a to the 4th. And then we have b squared, b squared. So now I have b to the what? B to the 4th. This next one's a little bit tricky because it's fractions, right? So those are a little bit scary sometimes. The first thing I like to do, let's just get the x's out of the way first. Okay, so we have x to the 5th with this x. Remember, it's a little hidden 1. So that's going to be x to the 6th. So we got that part out of the way. Now we just have to deal with the fractions. So first of all, we have a negative times a negative, so we know it's going to be positive. So now all I'm looking at is just this 3/8 and this 4/5. Now you can multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom, and simplify, but it would be a good idea if you got comfortable with simplifying fractions up front, because in the end, it will make less work for us. So if you notice, this 4 is up top, this 8 is on the bottom. Another way to write 4/8 would be 1/2. Okay, so instead of 4/8, I'm going to put 1/2. So now across the top, we're going to have that 3 times 1 is 3. Over that 8, we change to a 2 times 5 is 10. So we have 3/10 times x to the 6th. I'm betting that you can probably do these next two. So go ahead and give them a try, hit pause, come back when you think you've got it. All right, so this x out front, what do we do with him? We have to distribute him to everything within the parentheses, right? So x times x is x squared. And then we have an x times that positive 3 is going to be a plus 3x. And then for the next one, 5x times 2x squared. Well, I have the 5 times 2 is 10. The x times the x squared gives me x cubed. Keep it going. So we are now 5x times negative 3x. So a 5 and negative 3. So I have negative 15. X times x is x squared. And then finally, 5x times 4. That's going to give us 20x. All right, for problem number 8, you've probably seen these before. There is an acronym that helps us remember the order to multiply, but the idea is just that we multiply everything by everything else. The acronym that you might have heard of is called FOIL. And FOIL stands for first, outer, inner, last. Okay, so I'm going to go and do each of these here. So for the first one, that just means multiplying those first two pieces together. So that's going to be an x times x is x squared. Next, outer, that just means those outer pieces. So x times 4, we're going to have a 4x. Then we have inner, those inside pieces of 5 and x is 5x. And finally, last, we have the final pieces, 5 times 4 is 20. Are we done? Not quite, because we still have some like terms we can combine. We can combine this 4x with the 5x. So our final answer is x squared plus 9x plus 20. Are we done? Yep, looks good. All right, so examples 9 and 10, those should be the same thing, okay? So go ahead and practice foiling, give it a try, hit pause, and then come back when you think you've got it. All right, so hopefully everything went okay. So go ahead and do this one for you. So first is going to be 4x squared. Outer is 8x. Inner is minus 3x. Last is minus 6. Combine our like terms. So we have a 4x squared. 8 minus 3 gives us a 5. So we have plus 5x minus 6. On the next one, we have 6a times 2a will give us 12a squared. Outer is going to be a 6a minus 4 will be a negative 24a plus a 6a and then minus 12. Are we done? Not quite. Final step, 12a squared. And we have minus 24a plus a 6a gives us a minus 18a minus that 12. All right, the final one for today. This one gets a little bit messy, okay? Because now we have these 3 different pieces, and there's not really an acronym to help you remember this one. You just want to find some way that works for you to keep track of multiplying everything by everything else. Okay, so go ahead and hit pause, give it a try, and then I'll show you what I do. So what I'm going to do is just take each piece in this first set and make sure that I multiply it by each piece in the second set. Okay, so to start, I have x squared times x will give me an x cubed. And then x squared times the 4 will give me a 4x squared. Moving on to the next piece, I have a positive 2x times x is a plus 2x squared. 2x times the 4 is going to be an 8x. And finally, I have a negative 3 times x is a minus 3x. With a negative 3 times 4 is going to be a negative 12. Now we're at the point where we just need to combine like terms, okay? So starting with the highest exponent, we have an x cubed. And then we're just going to go down to now finding all of our x squareds. And it looks like we have a plus 4x squared plus a 2x squared for a plus 6x squared. And then we have our x's are next. So we have a plus 8x minus 3x. It's a plus 5x. And then finally at the end, our minus 12. All right, that wraps up part 1. So you can stop right there for today or continue on to part 2. Good job. Have an awesome day.